Welcome to Grazora Life. I'm Brett Adams, and we have your host, Jason McKenzie. Today, we are going to talk about what keeps business owners stuck. I'm going to put Jason on the spot and see how quickly he can answer these questions.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, so 7 of the most common asked questions that I've heard in my own coaching and also just checking around. So a business owner may ask, how do I get out of the weeds long enough to actually fix the weeds?
Man, that's a good question. And oftentimes what I've seen is people think that it's an all or nothing approach. And so from my perspective, rather than approaching it that way, a business owner should say to themselves, okay, what's one thing I can fix? What's one small step I can take rather than saying, okay, I'm either working in the business or I'm on the business. It's a dial. So what can you do to move from 100 down to 99% in the business? That would be my response to that.
Yeah, and that is perfect. That aligns exactly with my experience. You have to figure out what is the thing that interrupts you the most. What small task, it doesn't have to need to be the most important task or anything else. Just what task interrupts you the most that you can pass off? What structure can you create around it so you don't have to worry about it? And that creates a little bit of room to move, a little bit more breathing room so that you can actually start fixing the weeds.
And the craziest thing is I just had that conversation with someone today, and they were talking about, okay, if I go hire somebody, that's really expensive, and I don't want to hire this person because it's a very specialized set of skills that they need to do the job. And he's talking about a full-time employee to replace him, what he's doing right now. I said, well, maybe you should do a time audit, figure out what you're doing, and then find one part-timer. Maybe it's only going to be 5 hours a week, just one part-timer that's going to do one task. And it was so amazing. The words never made it into his head because the next statement was, well, sure, I could find someone else, but then they'd be doing all the administrative and all the sales work. I was like, well, I must not have communicated clearly because I didn't say find a full-time employee over here. I said find a part-timer that's going to do one task. But for some reason, his ears could not hear that concept. He thought it was full-time over here doing the work or full-time doing sales and all of the marketing side of the business and advertising. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're ever felt that you're stuck, is like you're stuck in the weeds, how do I get out? It's with something very, very small. So um another similar vein question, how do I stop being the bottleneck without everything falling apart?
That's really a good one too, man. You did curate good
Mhm.
questions. So the best way to be the bottleneck without everything falling apart is by putting together a checklist for the various tasks. So you're going to pick one task, get out an actual physical sheet of paper and write down the steps that you think should happen for that task to get done. Then I would recommend, if you've never done it before, follow your own steps, go through it by yourself once, see how it works when you do it, and then make corrections, then hand it to somebody that's going to take over that one task and stand over their shoulder and watch them do it. And then they're going to say, what does this mean? And now you've realized that you didn't train them properly. So now you've got to train them on what each of those steps mean, which oftentimes relates to a whole training video or some other resource that holds the training. But then once they've been trained, they're going to point out all the holes that you have. Then you fix it. Now you know it's ready for production, and you just follow that process over and over and over. But you can't do it all at once. This is for anyone who's seen What About Bob. This is baby steps through the office.
Perfect. Yeah, and if you notice, the answer given is essentially fundamentally the same answer that was given to the first question. It's a small piece that you get off your plate. You hand it off to somebody else so that
Yeah,
you're not dealing with it anymore, to create a little bit of breathing room, which gives you enough capacity to do the next thing.
yeah. How do you
Um,
eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
right. So next question, why does everything take longer than it should, even though I have a team?
Well, when I was roofing, I was working for this roofer, and he told me, we were driving one of my first days on the job, and he said, something you'll learn in business and life is anything you're going to do, it's going to take 3 people to replace you, because no one else has the same passion, no one else has the same skill set as you, no one else has the same desire. And he's like, as himself being the business owner, he said, I didn't believe it when I was told that, but it's absolutely true. No one else is going to come at it the same way you do. So you have to expect everything's going to take longer. But that's okay, because that's the reality for the whole world. You're not anything special. You're not hiring extra special people that can't do the job or anything like that. That's just a normal expectation. And the reason I think for that is most people are terrible judges of how much time they're actually spending on something. So I'll ask somebody, hey, how long do you think that'll take? 15 minutes. Okay, I'm going to quadruple that and it's going to take an hour. And then it's a lot closer. So I think business owners are especially bad at judging how much pain we're putting ourselves through when we're doing the work. So we'll tell people, oh yeah, I can knock that out in an hour. 5 hours later, you're still pounding your head against the wall. But the difference is you get it done. And then you forget that it was 5 hours, not one.
That's fair. Yeah, I think I've seen that as well. I think we move right on to the next one. So how do I get my people to take ownership instead of waiting on me?
Stop being a jerk. That's how you do it. Most business owners, they come in and they'll just berate their employees when things go wrong. And maybe not verbally, but it's going to be in your body language and the way you treat them and the lack of respect. So as a business owner, you've got to create a culture where it's okay to mess up, okay to think differently than the business owner, okay to come up with solutions without the business owner. Because if you come rushing in, put the firefighter hat on and come running in the door every time something goes wrong, and then you've got that mindset that I'm the only one that can do it, everyone's going to believe you. That's what you told your whole team, and you're the boss. So they're going to believe that, oh, I can't do that. Only the boss can. So you have to flip the script and say, I hired you because you're smart, you're an expert in your space, and you're creative. If you have questions, let's discuss it, but I want you to work with me and I want you to solve the problem, not me.
That's perfect. Yeah, you give them ownership of the outcome and let them figure out how to do it.
100%.
Yeah, one thing I've seen that's been very helpful is, which is really, really hard for me with my personality, is when somebody comes to me and they ask me how I want them to go about doing it.
Hmm.
And even though I know how I want it done, I have to play dumb. Oh, because I have to create that opportunity for them to take that initiative and figure it out and actually get the ownership without cutting their legs out from under them by telling them how I want it done.
Mm-hmm.
At least, I tell them you have to be very clear on the outcome that I want, but their method for going about how to do it, let them figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Unless
And
there's
it
already a procedure written, then it's just follow the
ab-
procedure and fix it, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if there's already a procedure, then it's much easier. So,
One of my
um,
favorite sentences that I've started picking up and saying for the last few years is, I trust you more than me. What would you do? And that, I mean, when you physically put it out there like that, what, like, now they have that expectation, they have that ownership, they have the weight on their shoulders. They have to perform or they have to move on to a new job. And if you can't create that culture, you're going to push people away. But if you can create the culture, people will be attracted to your organization because they feel that breath of fresh air.
yeah, and that is a fundamentally different thing, that I trust you more than me. Like, that's why you own this outcome.
100%. Yep.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a beautiful statement. So let's go right on to the next one. And where do I start with systems without getting overwhelmed?
Hmm. Where do I start with systems without getting overwhelmed? Well, if someone has never built a system before, I would say pick one of the smallest tasks possible. That would be where I'd start. Because if you're trying to eat the whole elephant again, you're going to go and you're going to put together a 50, 60, 70 step process. It's going to be way too much. Most processes can be done in anywhere from 2 to 10 steps. And if you get into more than that, you probably need to break those out into separate processes. And you're going to have a process, and then you're going to have a second process and a third process, and you're going to break them into baby steps. Oftentimes, someone's looking at the entire project. And a great example is building a house. You could come in and say, well, here's the process for building a house. And I can break it down into 10 steps. You've got to have the permits. So you have to have the blueprints. So you get blueprints, then you get your permits, then you do the foundation, then you do framing, then you're going to dry it all in, and then you're going to do all the inside work, then you're going to do all the outside finish work, and then you could close out all your permits. And that's just a few process steps, but each one of those is going to have processes baked into it as well. So I would say start with a really small one, and then work your way through that, and then pick another small one and another small one, and eventually you'll get to where you have a bunch of small ones that build up to the overarching procedure you're trying to accomplish.
Perfect. Yeah, and if you want a little bit more detail on that, you can look at, I believe, our very, very first live stream in the recordings, and where we talk about how to build systems from scratch.
Absolutely.
So, for business owners who have been around for a while, they will start to realize that there's usually only one or two things that they need to work on to take their business to the next level. But a
Hmm.
lot of times they have trouble figuring out what that is. So, this question being, what's the real bottleneck in my business right now? How do I discover it?
All right. So first, let's cover what a bottleneck is. So when you've got a bottle and you turn it upside down and it goes glug glug glug, the neck of the bottle is constraining the liquid from just flowing out free fall. And so that same concept is in a business, you're trying to get all the liquid out of the bottle because that means you're accomplishing work. And so something is constricting your ability to get that work to just free flow out. And so that's first off what I consider the bottleneck, and a great visual for anyone who's ever tried to dump soda out of a 2 liter bottle and it just glugs everywhere slowly. Now, to figure out what your bottleneck is, you've got to ask yourself some questions. Brett, what's the first question you're going to ask yourself?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask, if I had 10 times more customers tomorrow, what would break first?
Hmm.
Um, and that's going to tell me whether or not I can, whether my constraint, my bottleneck lies in either the operation side of the business or in the sales side of the business. Can I get, do, can I handle more work, or am I at capacity?
Interesting. So you see it as two pillars then.
Yes, I do. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's what I look at. Additionally, I could look at myself. It's like, where am I holding the business back? Um, but fundamentally, it's still going to lie in either your ability to get commitments from people,
Hmm.
or your ability to keep the commitments that you make with your
Hmm.
customers.
Excellent. So I would say for myself, I would look if I'm the business owner that's running a small business, I would ask myself, what is it that I'm doing in the business still? Because I have to consider myself as normally the bottleneck. So I would also factor that into the equation, because the business owner oftentimes is holding on to their favorite parts and they don't want to let go. And they're like, no, no, no. And usually it's one of those favorite parts that the business owner's holding on to that's turning into the bottleneck. So I would also do a self examination and say, what am I holding on to that I should let go of? That could be another great place to find a bottleneck or the bottleneck in your business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in any business, um, especially businesses between um, a few 100,000 a year to 10 million a year, the owner is usually the bottleneck. Like,
Hmm.
there's no question that the owner is the thing that keeps the business from being bigger and greater than it could be otherwise.
Hmm. And
And
if I were to rewind that a little bit further, to me, usually the bottleneck of a business for a small business is the beliefs the owner actually has. It's not usually so much the processes. It's usually what they believe is holding them back, because what you as a business owner believes dictates the way you're acting, and the way you're acting is what's holding everything back. So if you can pull it all the way back, what you believe is probably the problem.
which segues perfectly into the next question. Again, Jason has no idea what questions are coming at him, but here it is.
Okay.
Is it actually possible for my business to run without me in a few months?
No, it's not. Give up. No, for most business owners, it's not
Yeah.
possible until they're willing to shift the way they think, which will shift the way they act, which will shift the way the business operates. If you're willing to make all those shifts, your business could run without you way faster than you think, or maybe not to 100%, But what if it ran without you maybe 75% or 80%? That's very much possible. You may not be able to completely just walk away, sit on your recliner 100% and never be involved in the business. But within a few months, you could definitely be achieving massive reduction in your necessity in the business.
Yeah, and I love that answer because everything that we've talked about, every question has led back to that. It starts with that small, simple thing that's creating a little bit of structure around one thing so that it can get off your plate. And the way that I like to refer to it is, you can work in the business or you can work on the business. And I love working on businesses.
Hmm.
Working in the businesses drives me nuts. Which
And that
which is like
and
being
that's your
in the
mindset,
weeds.
right?
That's my mindset,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, when I have the capacity to work on the business, to look at the big picture and see where we can go, what we can shift, how we can change things to unlock more,
Mhm.
that that's what excites me.
Gotcha. But that
And
took a lot of training because that wasn't the way that you were naturally raised, right?
no, no, and that goes with most people. Most of us are raised to do a job as opposed to direct the job being done. I mean, and they're fundamentally different skill sets.
100%. Yeah, when I was roofing, the owner that I was working directly with, going back to him again, one of my favorite jobs ever. He said, "Jason, your job is to know what I want before I know what I want." And so I had to be aware, is he going to want a stack of shingles? Is he going to want nails? Is he going to want a drink from his Gatorade bottle? I had to anticipate all of that so that as soon as his hand came up, what it was put right into his hand. But that was my job. I wasn't designed to go out and solve all the problems of the business. I was simply there to think of what he's thinking when we're slapping shingles down. And so I learned how to slap shingles down from working with him, but I didn't learn how to run a business from working with him.
Well, and that's funny because, I also, had a lot of construction jobs early on, and, as a teenager, that's what one of my bosses said is, "I need you to see what I need next and get it done or out of the way so that I could just keep rolling.
Yeah.
You have to anticipate what I'm gonna need." And absolutely, yeah, exact same thing. So I didn't realize that, that you had that same experience.
Must be common to construction.
It probably is.
But that's
So
because the owner, and I'm guessing you were working with the owner's mindset is, as long as I'm working, we're making money. And as soon as I, the owner, stop working, we're not making money anymore. If they'd shifted the mindset and said, let me teach these young bucks to do what I, the owner, do, pretty soon the owner wouldn't have to show up to work anymore. He'd just have to drive by the job site and make sure we were doing what we were supposed to every so often.
yeah, that's fair. Because for me, as long as the owner didn't ever have to stop working for any reason that was within my power to fix, he didn't care if I sat in a chair
Yeah.
and read a book or whatever. Like I could, like as long as he never had to stop, it what I did besides that didn't even matter.
Amazing. Our jobs were to make them work harder.
Oh. Yeah, yeah. So recently, um, you actually just launched an offer,
I did. I did.
and on that, our jobs were to help the business owners work even harder, to be even more integral to the business, to get almost even more stuck, more entrenched in into the core of the business. Tell me about how your offer, um, maybe turns that on its head.
Yeah. So we've we've both been through this experience of recognizing that as a business owner, if we're working in the business, then we literally are like those our bosses, where we've got to work faster, faster, harder, work faster, work harder all day, every day in order to give ourselves a raise, which is a terrible position to be in. And so, for each of us, we've had our journey of moving from how do I get myself so I'm the least important person in the business instead of the most important person. And after I think you made that journey first, and then you guided me along my journey with that. And what we've discovered is there are millions of business owners who show up to work they're burned out, working way too hard and not making enough money. And we're saying, we're here to help you turn that on its head. We're here to be your partners so that you can transform from being the business owner that's built literally a cage where you go in and you run like a hamster on a wheel all day. And then when you get off at night, the machine of the business stops running and you stop making money. We're gonna break that cage down and convert it into freedom so that when you wake up in the morning, you've got a business that's been running for you and a business that will keep running for you, even if you choose to not show up to work that day. And so that's really the core of what we're trying to do with Grazora, Grazora. It is, if you go there, grazora.com, it outlines all of those things to where people have the opportunity to transform. And it does happen a lot faster, maybe not to 100%, but you're going to make massive strides from being trapped to feeling like you actually have freedom. When you look at some of the biggest business owners in the world, they all started out at some point with nothing, more or less. There's a few that were just gifted with, maybe their parents gave them a bunch of stuff, but by and large, there's so many entrepreneurs who go out there, they start a business, and then they have all this free time. And that drove me nuts looking at them and wondering why I was trapped. And so now I can say I'm on that other side to a huge degree compared to before. And I know life's so much better here. And my goal, and I think our goal, is really to share that with a million business owners. Let's get to where we can infuse this prosperity of time and money to business owners back into America so that you're not working until you're 60, 70 years old, your body's broken, your spirit's broken, and then you retire and die on the couch the next week because you don't know how to live without your job.
Yeah, seen that far too many times, and on this journey that we've had, together, I just remember being on I re what's really hit me is the stories that you tell, especially about when we'd go on vacation to the same place,
It was
and
terrible.
you talk and yeah, you'd feel like, "Yeah, I'm not taking my laptop, I'm not taking my phone, I don't need to worry about it, everything's handled," and you're just like,
Yep, yep, absolutely. I went on vacation and brought my work with me, and then I'd be jealous as you were like, "Oh, I had to take a phone call today? Well, at least I made $1,000 off from it." I'm like, "What the heck? How's he do that? How's he literally go on vacation and
yeah.
make more money than I do?"
Yeah, yeah, it was, there was it was different, but it was also, again, to recognize the impact that that had on you and now to be able to put something together with you to create that same level of impact of helping a lot of my friends and people I know to break from being in that cage, to
Hmm,
being so integral to their business, to actually getting to where they can work on their business, to where they can have time and money freedom, and they can really grow their business as much as they want. They can participate in the community as much as they want, to where they have that choice of
yeah.
what they do. If they
You
want to
know,
keep working in the business, they can, but
right,
they don't
but they
have
don't have
to.
to. Yep, exactly, and the other cool thing is a lot of people think, "Oh, if I can just scale the business up, then I'll have the freedom." And the amazing thing is, you probably don't need a massive business. I was talking to a guy recently, and I think the guy's number was 100 some $1,000s a year. If he could make that money and have the business making that money, it would give him enough money to accomplish the things he wants in life. And that would be amazing to him if he didn't have to show up to work all the time, all day, every day, and he still made that amount of money. That doesn't require a massive multi-million dollar company most of the time to make $100,000. That could happen relatively fast for him. But a business owner has to be willing to start shifting those things, and they have to shift themselves a little bit in order to get those different results.
Yeah, yeah, because what this is I see this about is really about helping people design a life that they want to live. It's not just for their business, it's about the life and that they want, the impact that they want to be able to have, and how they want to be able to serve others, on their journey. And that to me, that's what this is really about, even though it is focused on how do you grow and scale your business? How do you make yourself, as you said, the least important person in the business?
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Yeah, it is. It is really all about what do you want out of your life? Let's give you some of the tools, techniques, and new mindsets so that it's possible and a little bit easier to do.
So, so we've got a few minutes left. Do you have anything else you'd like to say to anybody that might be listening today?
I'd have to say the biggest thing that we should all take a moment and think about is just how good we have life. Even if you have to work in your business all day every day, the first thing is life is pretty good in that you probably have good enough health you can go into work. And like I was talking with my parents just the other day, and we were talking about poverty, and they've traveled a little bit in the world and seen some places in the world that people my dad was saying in particular one scene has always stuck with him, and he was going along and someone was sitting outside of their house, which was a couple pieces of cardboard with a piece of corrugated tin sitting on top of the cardboard, and they were sitting out front of that, and they had, like, I think he said either 3 or 4 peppers they were trying to sell that day so that they can go and buy some other food so that they'd have food. And we in America have it so good. So even if you've got life a little bit rough, I'd say, and if you're not where you want to be, there's still huge opportunities to look back and say, you know what? For all the rough that we have, it's pretty good. Plus, we have the opportunity to make it so much better. So I always want to make sure that people recognize how good they do have it before they're just trying to blindly grope off to some goal that they haven't really identified.
Yeah, we truly do live in a land of opportunity here, and thank you. That's a good thing to remember. Um, for the people that you're currently working with, that you're helping directly, what from what we've talked about do you think would hit them the hardest today?
That's an individual thing because everyone is in a different place and a different stage of both personal development, business development, and even goal development. Some people don't even know, if you ask them, "Hey, if you didn't have to work today or next week or next month, do you know what you would actually do with your life?" A lot of people wouldn't even know. It would be like, "Whoa, I can't. I don't know. I work. That's who I am." And so I think for everyone, there's going to be different aspects. Some people, just that concept of what would I do with my life if I didn't have the expectation of being at work every day? For some, that's a total mind bender. But for others, they're like, oh yeah, I've got my list. I know what I'm going to do. And they're more on that stage of what do I need to change internally before I can achieve that.
That's perfect. Yeah. So that's where a diagnosis comes in. Instead of um, you show up to the doctor and the doctor is like, take this, this, and this, and that should solve your issue. Did you say like, wait a second, doctor? Like you didn't even ask me anything. Like I have a broken arm. I don't need antibiotic. Like
Right. Yeah.
yeah, skip the diagnosis. So yeah, that's a very, very important part, and recognizing that there are different phases that different people are at, and one core one answer isn't going to work for everyone equally.
Absolutely. Yep.
So yeah, I that's about all I have. So you have any questions for me?
Perfect. What would you leave everyone with?
Oh, you throw it right back at me.
I am.
The thing that I would leave anybody with is um, take action.
Hmm.
Um, Momentum comes from movement, and movement creates motivation. Like if you feel like if you're waiting to be motivated, stop. Stop waiting to be motivated. Just start acting, and then the motivation comes. Um, you we make the most progress when we iterate as we go, rather than trying to come up with something perfect from the beginning. And so all different ways of looking at, just move forward, just act, just do, and don't let fears or worries or doubts or anything hold you back, because the moment you start taking steps, you're going to get more information. And then you're going to be able to adapt and iterate and work and get that momentum so you can get where you want to be in life.
I love it. And I think that's the perfect place to close. So whatever your action is, everybody, take it, and then make sure that one action you take is jumping on the schedule so that you put it on your calendar to come again next week and hear our wisdom next week.
Thanks, Jason.
See ya.